Howdy everybody in YouTube land. What we have in front of us today is a TRS-80 Model 100. I don't remember if I've done a YouTube video on one of these yet or not, but this one belongs to a friend of mine because we had this cool idea of when we went to the Vintage Computer Festival to set up a TRS-80 to input control and crawl commands into the WeatherStar 4000, which was fairly successful. There was some issues with the signal not getting across. I don't know what's going on with that, but anyway, so we got that to work, but not with this machine. This is his machine, and for some reason this machine does not work. The capacitors have been replaced, but there's still an issue with it. We got to find out what's going on. But so I brought mine, which I had fixed already. It had a bad Toshiba chip that ran the keyboard. So I replaced that chip and then it was fine. So this one, I don't know what's going on with it yet, but I'm going to plug it in so we can figure out what the symptom is. And it's already been recapped and cleaned, so we can rule that out. But I need to get in here and find out if it's a chip that failed or if it was an open trace or something like that. So let's do an initial power up because I know where it came from. I think it's safe to turn on without blowing anything up, and that's an issue. Yeah, that's an issue. Anyways, so let's turn this on without blowing it up. And if we blow it up, well, I guess we'll just have to fix it, don't we? Alright, so let's get it connected up to my power supply so we can see what's going on with it. I think we're loaded for bear. So, let's see, where's my switch? There it is. Huh. I don't think that's good. Yeah, that's a problem. So we have a logic fault somewhere. Alright. Well, we're going to have to take it apart and see what we got going on. Something in here is definitely faulty. We can deduce that much. I know, the obvious, right? Yeah, so let's get it apart and figure out what we got going on here, and hopefully it's something simple. It's probably either an open trace or a bad logic chip. So the first thing I noticed right away is this thing is filled with Toshiba semiconductors. And they're kind of known for not standing up to the test of time. So, for example, in my unit, it didn't have as many Toshiba parts, but one of the Toshiba parts actually went bad. So I need to do some quick voltage checks and see if I'm getting proper voltage to certain parts, but then I'm likely going to have to pull a schematic to this thing. I got to see if I have one already. I don't know that I do, but I might. But I do want to do some quick voltage checks and see what's going on, and I want to check the reset line to make sure it's being toggled. Because if we're not getting a reset line, then yeah, nothing's going to work. I've been probing around on this thing, and I'm not really coming up with much. I took the RAM out to get it out of the way. I took the board out so I can look at the bottom for broken traces, but you can hear a pop from the speaker when I press the reset button. So it's doing something. I removed the ROM and that pop goes away. So the ROM is executing up to a certain point. So then I grabbed my logic probe and I was checking some data bits like here. It's working. It's trying to work. But what's weird is trying to find. Yeah, I don't know if it's here. It might be here. No. Maybe it's here. But look, what happens? It just fades out. It's weird. That's the read line coming out of this buffer here. So I chase the buffer, and I think it's here. Yeah, it's right here. So if I really need a tripod. So if I press reset, comes alive, but then the read line goes tri-state right off the CPU, which that's weird. So I'm checking the address bus. So this is the address bus. So see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All 8 bits there are high. So I check the multiplex side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all high. So this chip literally goes, the read line shuts off and all of the bits go high. That's unusual. I'm going to have to study the 8085 datasheet and see if it's designed to do that, but I'm starting to suspect that chip is bad. I'll have to do some research and look around. So I did more testing, and what I found out, see, 33, that's low. This is S1. And 29, that's S0. So state 0 and state 1 are both low. That means the CPU is being told to halt. So it's encountering a halt instruction, probably from ROM. So this boots up to a certain point and then it goes into halt. Now, I don't know how the ROM is structured on this and what would tell the machine to go into halt, but something is telling that CPU to go to halt mode. So the CPU is probably fine actually, but it's doing something, whether it's testing RAM or something is going on here that's causing this CPU to go into a halt state. So I need to get down to the bottom of why that is. Alright, so I noticed with this one, the LCD is what's being selected before the CPU goes into halt. So what I'm going to do is I grabbed mine and let's see. This one still works. Oh wow, it still remembered the program from when we went to VCF East. It still has a program stored in it. As soon as I take the batteries out, it's going to go bye-bye. But yeah, it's this one works. So I'm gonna try this LCD and keyboard on my board and make sure the problem is not in here, so I can roll that out. So yeah, we're gonna do that. So I just took mine apart and got the LCD plugged in. So this is the original one from the one that doesn't work, and that's my board. It's got batteries in it. So let's turn the power on. If I can get it to slide. There we go. Yep, it works. So it's not the LCD. Not the LCD at all. So, okay. Now, just out of curiosity, I think what I want to do is I want to swap the ROMs and try to roll out the ROM just to make sure. I went ahead and swapped the ROMs around just to roll it out, and it's fine. Yep, it's good. So the original ROM is fine. So really, I think at this point, we've got a bad logic chip on the other board somewhere. We just got to find it. Question is, where and how? I could take the brute force approach. I could pull all of the logic chips out and test them in the TL866 too, because they will test logic chips. But maybe we can methodically find it. I gotta think about the approach on this one. So before we go any further, I wanted to go through and let you know that the voltages on these are actually good. I did check the volt, the VCC, the battery, and all that stuff. All that's fine. So I know the power supply is not the issue. What I want to do now, though, is I want to pull these 244s and 245s because I know on my other unit I had a problem with one of these. So I want to pull these out and check and make sure they're good. I want to check all the buffers and transceivers with my tool and rule that out before I go any further. So I'm going to start with this one first. This is the read-write transceiver. Now, I could methodically go through this with the oscilloscope and stuff like that, but first off, I'm not 100% familiar with this system, and two, you could spend hours and hours and hours chasing your tail to find a problem. So for me, it's just easier to pull the logic chips with this tool here and test those in my TL-866-2. So I can start rolling that out. I want to roll the transceiver out, and I want to roll these drivers out and stuff like that, just to make sure there's nothing wrong with the bus network. Then if I know those are okay, then I'm going to move on to the decoders, because that's the only other thing left. It's possible the RAM is bad, but this is some weird thing I don't know if I can test. I tested this one already. It's perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and test these two now, and we're going to roll those out. And if those are good, really the only thing left, well, there's a bunch of things left, but the decoder, these 138s are kind of known for going bad. So maybe that, I've had this is the one that went bad on mine, so yeah, that's why I'm kind of checking these transceivers and buffers first. Yeah, this is literally becoming a wild goose chase. So that one's good. These two are good, so I put them back in there. The only thing I haven't checked is this one, which I don't think that's critical to startup. Might be, but I'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to check these three next, and if those are good, I'm going to go through the rest of those, and then I'll come back and check all of those. Otherwise, the only other thing it could be is the RAM itself. It's certainly possible, but I don't think so. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out, but well, you know, it's a dumpster fire. It is what it is, just like what my shirt says. Everything's fine. It'll be fine. So, alright. Moving right along. Alrighty then. So I got these three pulled out. There's two 138s and a 139. So, I doubt these are going to be my issue because it's the select for the RAMs, which I don't have installed. But if this one's a problem, then we're going to have issues over here. So, let's check these and roll those out. As I expected, those three are fine. You don't know until you roll them out. So that rolls out this one, these two, and these three. They're fine. That's probably alright because the states are changing based on inputs, so I'm going to leave that one alone. I'm going to leave everything up here alone for now, and I'm just going to go ahead and start checking all of these, except with the exception of the NEC. That's the clock generator, and I got a clock signal, so I'm going to leave that alone. But I'm going to check the rest of them. Alright, let's try round 3. I got all those chips pulled, and I pulled them not just to only test them, but I can look up underneath here and make sure there's no broken traces or vias or anything like that, because that would certainly cause this too. I didn't remove the clock chip, but it's probably fine because I'm getting a clock signal. We're striking out on the chip so far. I just tested all of these and they're all good. So, I'm running out of ideas. So, I'm going to have to pay closer attention to... Alright, so I'm going to put those back in. Well, before I do, I'm going to inspect all the traces and vias. And then, once I know that's good, I'm going to put all those chips back in. Then, I'm going to start checking everything from here up there. The only thing I've seen so far is this 244 has got this weird pitting in the epoxy. That might just be a manufacturing thing, but that's the last one to check outside of everything around it. So, okay. If all of those test good, then we've got faulty RAM. We'd have to. Well, let's try the next round of chips. All those are okay. They're put back in and check the traces. They're all fine. So I pulled those 4 out and that one up there out. Alright, well, if this isn't it, then we've got some fault that's not related to logic other than maybe that. Alright, well, I tested all of these on the TL-866-2. They're all good. Ran them through multiple tests, wiggled them. They're all good. Every one of these logic ICs are fine. I didn't check any of these because they're not important to the operation. That one maybe, I gotta look that up, and these two maybe, but I don't think so. I'd soldered that guy back in, so I want to put the rest of these back in here. Yeah, I'm at a loss at this point. So I've rolled out all the logic, which is good. So nothing there. So the only thing that leaves is, it's not the ROM. I already tried that. It's one of the, if these three chips here are bad, which is possible, or this one, the RAM. So I'm wondering if I can temporarily see if I can't patch this in temporarily in place of that one. I'm noticing the solder joints aren't the best on this, but I checked everything. All of these logic ICs have been checked, and just to make sure, just resoldering everything didn't change the behavior. Nah, it's still the same. It's still, you know, still not working right. So that's the last thing there is. So I want to see what my plan of attack here is. I'm wondering if I can move. I gotta look at the schematic, because I think I can pull this out and I can plug the RAM module in here minus the select lines, and then tack solder some wires over to the select pins over here and try it. Ouch, that hurt. Wow. I slipped on the soldering iron. Yeah. I want to feel that one tomorrow. Trying to pull the RAM out now, and I was trying to clean the tool out, and my finger slipped and crashed into the tip. Yikes. What I've done here is I bent out the 4 chip enable lines. There's 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. So I bent those out and I pushed this chip in, not all the way down, but enough. Then I want to take some wires and run them over here, and that will rule out if this is indeed the problem or not. Alright, this is what I have in mind. So instead of, because this chip won't fit on there, and the reason why is because there's some decoding network underneath for the 4 lines. So it just bottoms out because it doesn't have the machine socket. So what I've done is plug that in and then run my chip enabled 1, 2, 3, and 4 over. So with any luck, it's gonna work. I hope. I'm running out of ideas here. That would be a negative. Yep. Well, dang. It was worth a shot. Back to the drawing board. Alright, I let it sit powered off for a minute. Turn it back on. Look at this. Really? Okay. Well, that's good news. So we're getting close. We're getting close to the problem. I wasn't able to get this to work at all until I swapped this RAM around. So we know we've got bad RAM. So this is the ultimate issue, at least the major issue. There might be an issue with the reset circuit, but it's entirely possible. I did do some studying. The battery balances the voltage for the RAM. So this can overshoot. If the battery's not in there, if something goes AWOL, it'll overshoot, which will fry the RAM. So that could have been what happened to this. So where do you get RAM modules for these? Probably gonna have to make them, because, well, I might be able to get those chips. I don't know though. Maybe I'll have to look into that. But there it is. I want to add a cliff note in here too. I think I mentioned this already in the video, but from what I was reading online, when the battery backup is missing, the 5-volt supply can go a little wild, and that could damage this RAM too. I think I mentioned that. So I think what I want to do is I want to put a 5.6 volt Zener diode across this to prevent that from ever happening. That way, when I get a new RAM module, which that's going to be interesting because I don't think they make these anymore, but there's 4 chips on this one, but there's also 4 select lines. It's because there's a select line per chip. But these aftermarket ones have a single chip, but it's using combinational logic here to combine the 4 select lines into one. I just don't know what this transistor's for. Maybe the reset logic is inverse. I don't know. I gotta figure that out. But yeah, I gotta go online and see if there's any RAM expansions that exist for these. If not, I'm gonna have to make them. Anyways, with that said, so I'm either gonna order chips for these or I'm going to make a new one. I don't know yet. I gotta determine that. But in the meantime, I think I'm gonna end it for this one because I have to get everything made and all of that fun stuff anyways. So thank you for watching. If you have a comment, please feel free to leave one in the boxes below. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And until next time, guys.